Everyone, welcome back to the 504 Core podcast. We're on episode 36. We're on a roll. Zach, what's been up?
Not too much, man. We've been busy as hell with transfer portal, football stuff, and obviously women's basketball and men's basketball is in full swing. So just trying to balance everything out and get it done, but busy.
Yeah, you can catch them on LSU Country and on Sports Illustrated. What's the best way to find you?
Really, if you go to the website on Google, just like LSU Country on Sports Illustrated, and that's where you can find like all of the content that we're putting out. We've been big on recruiting right now, just because the signing period of February is coming up. A lot of visits are happening, so just trying to keep all that content rolling over there, and then women's basketball, men's basketball, like I said, is in full swing. So just trying to pump out as much as we can.
Yeah, there's literally no shortage of content. I mean, you're writing fucking, I don't know, 4 or 5 articles a day, it seems like. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah. So let's go with the recruiting. What's the latest with LSU football?
Yeah, obviously, like the transfer portal has been, again, for the third time I said, it's been in full swing. You're seeing a lot of additions, you're seeing some departures and stuff, but now that the window's closed to enter the portal, you're just starting to see a lot of targets for this team. And I don't think you're going to see a lot of additions over the next couple of weeks. I think you're going to see that spring portal window be the bread and butter for this program, just because they're over the scholarship count right now. Like, you're sitting at 88 scholarships, and you need to be at 85 by the time the season starts. So you're going to see some players either get processed or make the decision to depart the program. So when it comes to recruiting right now, it's just kind of like circling a couple of transfer portal targets and seeing what you can get from there. Trey Amos is a guy, the cornerback from Alabama. That's a guy that this program's been looking at, talking to, seeing what they can do. But it kind of looks like he's trending towards Ole Miss right now, so we'll see what they can do in that department. But on the recruiting trail, there's really one target left in the 2024 class, and that's Terry Bussey, a 5-star athlete out of Timpson, Texas. So that's a guy who's going to be on campus January 31st. He's going to take an unofficial visit, and that's the home run. That's the last guy left on the table, and if they could ultimately seal the deal with him, that'd be fantastic. If not, it is what it is because he's a current Texas A&M commit. But his his recruiting visit schedule is going to go as Georgia on January 26th, LSU on the 31st, and then he's going to take that final visit to Texas A&M on February 2nd. So just to be in his final 3 and just to get a visit is a pretty big deal. So we'll see if this program can roll out the red carpet, do what they can do. They just made a whole new defensive staff, so see what you can do with him, and it'll be tough to sway him away from A&M, but to get that visit's a big deal. And then the coaching staff's just been on the road, man. Like, they've been just checking out players. Like, they saw James Simon yesterday. They went up to Calvary Baptist and saw him. It's 4-star running back in Louisiana, 2025 class. Devin Harper, 2025 4-star offensive lineman. So they're taking their fair share of trips around the state and just doing what they can. But recruiting trail's kind of not necessarily dead right now, but just trying to figure out the roster and then move on to that 2025 class to finalize it.
Yeah. Did they know where they're going to put Bussey? The offense, defense? Do you know?
Yeah, so obviously he's classified as an athlete, so he can do it all. For people that I've spoken to, they want to utilize him as a Swiss Army knife, kind of use him as a safety, but also if he wants to take reps at wide receiver, see what he can do there. Obviously, this program has no shortage of wide receiver depth right now, so it wouldn't be that easy to get him on the field. But look, he's effective with the ball in his hands, so they're willing to put him wherever he wants, whether it's special teams, offense, defense. So that's kind of their pitch. A lot of the programs that are recruiting want to use him as a safety because, again, that's where he cooks. So really just LSU's pitch is use him wherever he wants to be used and see what they can do there. But primarily he'll be used as a defensive back.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to play DB, I mean, there's literally no better place to go right now than LSU. So, I mean, Georgia. I hope he doesn't go to Georgia. I mean, I'd rather him stay at A&M in Georgia. Georgia is just unbelievable. They're loading up left and right. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the SEC the other day. It's going to be Georgia, Texas, LSU, and Ole Miss. Those are the 4 schools, and I think after that, there's going to be a pretty big drop off with everything.
Agreed.
But you touched on wide receiver. I mean, they added CJ Daniels. What was behind that? I don't know why they would add another receiver. It seems like they got 15 receivers. So
yeah, I mean, the receiver depth is there, but when you're looking at guys that are proven, there's not that many proven guys in that room. You got Kyron Lacey coming back, but other than that, you're really relying on a bunch of underclassmen, like whether it's Shelton Sampson, Kyle Parker, Aaron Anderson, some guy who's going to be technically a veteran now, but he hasn't necessarily proved himself in the purple and gold or at all at the college stage. So you go out and get 2 proven guys like Xavier Thomas from Mississippi State, go get CJ Daniels, and then you have Kyron Lacey. That's a pretty good 3-headed snake when you're looking at your wide receiver depth. And then you throw in the youngsters like Sheldon Sampson and Kyle Parker in the mix as well. So the depth is there, but when you're looking to go and get guys, you need to go get some proven experience. And CJ Daniels is obviously Liberty plays a JV schedule. I was saying that last week, but at the end of the day, there's 11 guys in college football who had recorded 1,000 yards and 10 plus touchdowns. And Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors were two of them. And then you look at somebody like CJ Daniels as well. He's on that list. So he's a seasoned guy. He's a veteran. He comes in with 2 years of eligibility. So, Brian Kelly harps on kind of wanting to get guys with multiple years of eligibility. So CJ Daniels isn't a 1-year rental unless he balls out this year. He could declare for the draft. But you needed to go get some experience. You need to get some veterans who have proven themselves at the college stage. And that's what you did by going to get Zavion Thomas and CJ Daniels. It was super important for this program, and they kind of hit it out of the park.
Yeah, no. Is he like a fast guy? I saw he's 6'2". Is he just kind of like do it all?
He's a do-it-all type of guy. He's physical. He gets the ball at his highest point. He's super, super talented. He's a dynamic receiver. I wouldn't say he's necessarily a speedster per se, but you don't really need that when you have Zavion Thomas in the mix, Aaron Anderson in the mix. So you go and get him as this kind of like do-it-all, versatile guy.
Who would be like? I mean, I would think Landon Ibieta would be the obvious transfer choice considering everything. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to transfer, but like if I'm looking at the wide receiver room, he's got to be up there. Any other potential transfers from wide receiver room and or LSU?
I mean, Ibieta's a guy who's just been hurt his entire career. Like he had a hip injury this season that held him out for the whole year, and he looked good during spring ball. Like he had a good offseason. He looked pretty damn good. But obviously, wide receiver room's deep. Yeah, it's pretty easy to get buried on the depth chart with this wide receiving core. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ibieta left, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he stuck around and try to see what he can do. The rest of the room, I mean, you saw Jalen Brown leave, former 4-star wide receiver. He left. He departed. He's at Florida State now. So that was one of the biggest signees in LSU's 2023 class was Jalen Brown, absolute speedster out of Miami. But so you saw one receiver already depart, and then you look at a guy like Kai Prian. He was an athlete who was on the wide receiver depth chart, and he might flip over to defense. A lot of us saw him taking cornerback reps during bowl practice, and I put out something a couple days ago about the wide receiver depth, and I was speaking with his dad, and his dad was saying no, like he hasn't switched to defensive back yet, and I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like what I've seen and what I've looked at is, what I've heard is that he's going to be playing defense, but who knows what happens in the department. So long story short, you're going to see guys leave the program. You've already seen guys leave the program, and it's going to be maybe 1 or 2 guys in the receiver room, and then fast forward, you go look at the secondary. You have 20 guys in the secondary right now, a mixture between safeties and cornerbacks. You got 20 guys. So only 3, 4, 5 guys can play at a time. I think during that spring portal window, you'll see A, guys get processed, and B, guys want to go find playing time elsewhere. So those are the position groups that you're going to see some guys leave.
And then so they have to get down to 85, right, for the roster?
Yeah.
So what are they at right now? Like 88?
They're at 88.
88, yeah. So, I mean, they have to – someone's got to leave or – there's different ways to do it though. Some guys could, I don't know. There's a lot of ways LSU could do it, but I heard like interesting ways, like you could put guys on academic scholarships or whatever.
Yeah, like they took a guy, Austin Osbury, who his dad is really high on the staff at LSU. He came in from Auburn. He's a former 4-star defensive back, and he went to Auburn for like 1-2 years, and then he just transferred back to Baton Rouge at LSU. And that's a guy who could very well be taking kind of like a walk-on type role, where other type of avenues pay for his school, and he's not taking, a scholarship. He's not on the scholarship count. That's not confirmed yet, but it's kind of something that's had a couple of rumblings here and there. But yeah, to what you're saying, like there's definitely factual evidence towards that, where there are other ways that you can pay for guys at school other than putting them on the scholarship count.
Yeah, no, people get pretty creative, pretty fast. That's so another. We'll kind of tie in Bama in a second, but Jameer Grimsley, I just saw he decommitted from Bama. I know he had interest in Florida when Corey Raymond was there, and I know he's from Tampa. And then now he's saying he's going to drop. He said LSU and Florida are going to be the schools, but he's not taking any visits. Have you heard anything with him? He's a big cornerback.
Yeah, so I'm doing something on that later today, actually, and we're filming this at 10 a.m. on Friday, January 19th. I'm gonna. Not even me. It's just from what I've seen, from what I've heard, Florida has the upper hand in this one right now. But at the end of the day, LSU can go down swinging as well with Corey Raymond, because one of the major reasons why Grimsley was really looking at Florida was because of Corey Raymond. So we'll see what we can do there. I'm not too sold on our chances quite yet, but there's certainly some rumblings given that it's his final 2, Florida, that being Florida and LSU, and it's an interesting situation, but. I'd like to see what LSU can do here. I think Florida has the upper hand right now, but look, LSU's going to go out. They're going to go down swinging.
Yeah, I saw he's from Tampa, so I wouldn't be. So I never fault the kid for staying at home. It just makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, seems like Corey Raymond's putting in the work already. What was your initial reaction from hiring him? Because I know Corey's not big on Raymond, but I think it's a pretty good hire. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, us three. We thought all three talked about it last week. Kind of just like you can look at the highs and lows of it all. Like elite recruiter, gets it done. Great relationships. One of the architects to DBU. There's a lot of history with Corey Raymond and Baton Rouge. So to get him back is a pretty big deal. Obviously, there's some things that need to be done from him as a player development coach. It's been a long last 5 years for him when you're looking at production with his guys. So recruiting is one thing, but getting the best out of your players is another. So I'm pleased with the hire. I love that Blake Baker is such a good defensive backs coach as well, because Baker's bread and butter is really at linebacker and safety. He's taken part with both those position groups. So I think he's gonna have a hands-on approach with Raymond, and they came out with his contract today, and it's a 2-year deal with an option after the 2025 season. So, or maybe it's the 2026 season. So it's not necessarily like a test run or a trial, but he's gonna have to prove himself sooner rather than later. And I like the hire. If you're asking me yes or no, it's a yes from me. I'm pleased.
Yeah, I mean, a DB coach, you're not going to forget how to tell them to flip their hips and do everything else. So, I mean, if you just bring in talent will take care of itself. And then if you just think about like who he had a defensive coordinator, he had Bo Pelini, then he had the COVID year, and the guys he brought in, even then, he brought in Cordell Flott, Stingley, Eli Ricks,
Exactly.
Jay Ward. All these guys are NFL guys. So, and then he transfers schools. Very good on transfer, but he goes to a different school, and that usually takes a year or two, and then next thing you know, shit can. So I think it's a great hire. People are raving about it. I know I saw Juwan Johnson say, LSU commit say he was gonna. That was the only reason he had Florida in his top 3 was because of Corey Raymond.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seems like these guys really do like him, and if he brings in talent, I think it'll mask a lot of other things as well, because simply LSU hasn't had the talent like at all. So even if you look at this recruiting cycle, I mean, try not to put too much emphasis on star recruiting, but I mean, how many DBs did they bring in? Like freshman DBs, like 2-3-star DBs. So, I mean, that's not really the standard of DBU. You kind of want to have 4 or 5-star guys. I'm not saying these guys won't be good players, but that's just kind of what it is every single year. I think he'll make a big difference with LSU moving forward. So we'll see. But I like how LSU structured it. I think that's how coaches should be, kind of on a prove it time of their career. So there's really no risk to LSU. And like I said, all the players.
I mean, I agree with that. Like for the most part, this recruiting class certainly doesn't have like that pop and like flavor that a lot of people are looking for in the secondary. But you look at somebody like Deshaun McBride, he's a 4-star safety out of Denham Springs, right here down the road. Him and Juwan Johnson are going to be 2 cornerstone pieces to this secondary moving forward. Juwan Johnson's a guy who played both sides of the ball in high school, and now he's transitioning to full-time defensive back. So I think with this coaching staff, player development is going to be key, solely because you're looking at a guy like Juwan Johnson who's going to need time to develop. I wouldn't necessarily say he's an immediate impact guy. I think it's going to take time for him to develop. Deshaun McBride is going to be a key piece to the secondary. And then somebody, we're talking about, if we're talking stars, there's a guy named PJ Woodland, who's a 3-star, cornerback, defensive back. And I think that guy is going to be somebody who makes an impact with this program sooner rather than later. He's right out of Mississippi. He was the 7A Defensive Player of the Year, state champion. He's a guy who, in my opinion, was under-recruited. And I think that once he gets to LSU, he's going to make an impact. So, yeah, stars do matter sometimes, but I think PJ Woodland can be a guy who kind of, defies that logic just because he's proven that he's a dog. And when I'm talking about Deshaun McBride, obviously he plays safety, and LSU finalized the deal with their safeties coach yesterday, Jake Olson. He was a Missouri defensive analyst. He came in with Blake Baker now, and this is a guy who I've talked to people who say he's kind of like a football genius, and he's an up-and-coming guy. So it wasn't necessarily that splash hire that people were looking for, because a lot of people wanted them to go to Texas A&M and get TJ Rushing, steal their defensive backs coach, or their safeties coach rather. So Jake Olson isn't necessarily this star-studded name, but I think this is a guy who will be working side by side with Blake Baker. Like I said, Baker has a good track record with safeties, and I think that those 2 guys can be a great 1-2 punch. So I think player development is going to be key, and I think you're going to see that with this new staff under Blake Baker.
So is he kind of taking like he's an upcoming star, but I saw that someone said that like Corey Raymond's going to kind of mentor him. Is that kind of like what's going on, or
No, I mean, certainly, Corey Raymond's a seasoned vet. Like he's a guy who's been around the block, and he's been through the game. He's done everything, and I think Jake Olson would be a fool to not sit back and learn from somebody of Corey Raymond's caliber. So I think I think Jake Olson's fantastic. I think he's going to be a key piece to this defensive staff for the future, and to sit back and learn from two guys like Blake Baker and Corey Raymond is going to be fantastic. He'll just sit back and absorb information like a sponge. So it's a home run hire. It's a home run hire, and not just Jake Olson, but the staff as a whole. I mean, you went damn near 5 for 5. Blake Baker's fantastic. Bo Davis is fantastic. Kevin Peoples is a guy who's well respected in the industry. Corey Raymond. And then, you look at somebody like Jake Olson to kind of be that icing on the cake. So I love what Brian Kelly did with this staff. And this program was not scared to shell out the dollars. So what they've done has been fantastic. And, I think you're going to reap the benefits of it coming next season.
yeah, and they all have sorry, they all have Louisiana ties
Yeah.
as well. So I know that was a big thing with Brian Kelly when he first took the job. He's always trying to find that Louisiana connection, whether it's recruits, coaches. So there's really something Louisiana. So people appreciate that. Kind of speaking on coaching, just staff. What's the latest? Are they going to go after a tight ends coach? Like, what's the latest with filling out the rest of the offensive staff?
So now that you have Jake Olson on board as a safeties coach, being an on-field guy, you get 10 on-field coaches. And I believe, based off kind of like my count that I'm doing mentally right now, I think you have 2 more on-field coaching positions left. And that's going to be one of them offensive coordinator and one being tight ends coach. There are a couple rumblings when it comes to I think I got that right. I'm like sitting here like looking up in the sky, like staring into space, like thinking about that. I think there's 2 left.
They need a special teams coordinator. Like
They kept Diaco on board. I'm pretty sure they had their special teams coordinator.
They have one. Who is it? Do you know?
I think it's Diaco.
Diaco.
But I can go check that. But to what you're asking, I mean, yeah, I could see them going after a tight ends coach and doing that, because when Den Brock was on staff, he was the offensive coordinator and tight ends coach. So now you could go get that guy from Tulane. I think his name's like Slade Nagel or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a guy that some people have been talking about. I'm pretty sure that's his name. Yeah. So that's a guy that could potentially come on board, but we'll see. Nothing finalized. No, not that many targets that I've heard from. And then, offensive coordinator. If you're asking me what I think is going to happen, I would say that they elevate Joe Sloan and put him as your offensive coordinator. And if you want to elevate Cortez Hankton too and have 2, co-offensive coordinators, that's fine by me, because Cortez Hankton is a football genius and Joe Sloan has proven that he is, up and coming. And if Brian Kelly doesn't elevate him to offensive coordinator this season, goddamn, he's going to be getting offensive coordinator offers next offseason. So I think you have a good thing going with Joe Sloan. So if you were asking me, I would say you elevate him, and that's going to be your kind of, you fill out your staff and your kind of done deal from there.
Yeah, and then Joe Sloan's, integral part of keeping Bryce Underwood as well. So I know he was the lead recruiter on him. Bryce Underwood was the #1 player in the country. So, I think he's really, really integral to that. Transition to what? LSU basketball, men's, women's. What do you want to roll with?
Let's do men's first, because women's basketball is a little bit more, info. So let's knock out some men's.
All right, lead it off. You can take it in a million different ways.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're coming off of a really big win on was it Wednesday? They took down a nationally ranked Ole Miss, and LSU was favored in that game going into it. Vegas knew. A lot of other people didn't know, but Vegas knew. So LSU has been kind of handling business over the last couple of weeks. Matt McMahon's steering the ship in the right direction. You get Jalen Cook back, the Tulane transfer, who is coming off of an all-conference season last year with the Green Wave, 20 points a game, 5 assists. I mean, this is a guy who's super effective, and he got to LSU and they ruled him ineligible. So he missed the first, part of non-conference, and now he has 5 games under his belt. And with him on the court, it's a completely different game. He takes a lot of the load, takes a lot of pressure. And with that, it opens up other opportunities for other players like Jordan Wright. So, sticking with just this last game against Ole Miss, you saw Jordan Wright cook. I mean, he had 27 points. I believe it was like 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 7 steals. It was an unbelievable stat line. It was the best game of his career, in my opinion. A lot of people are going to sit back and say it was the best game in the purple and gold, but to me, it was the best game of his basketball career. So he balled out, and it goes back to Jalen Cook taking a lot of the pressure, taking a lot of the heat, and it's opened up opportunities for guys like Jordan Wright, Will Baker. So kind of simplifying things, The basketball program is going in the right direction. Matt McMahon's steering the ship in the right direction. And I think they have an opportunity to be, pretty good towards the back end of SEC play. Once Jalen Cook and Jordan Wright, that backcourt gets more continuity, the front court starts to develop a little bit more, I guess I would say depth. Because you have your guys like Will Baker, Tyrell Ward's been playing really good ball. But I think you're going to see more continuity for him over the next couple of weeks. And look, men's basketball is on the way to getting it right. 3-1 in conference play right now, and you got a big game tomorrow night. That being Saturday, January 20th, against Texas A&M at home. So it's going in the right direction, and I'm really happy for Matt McMahon.
What would you consider to be a successful season for LSU basketball?
Yeah, I mean,
kind of
you
on
only
an
won.
upswing rebuild. Yeah,
you only won 2 conference games last season, so you've already won more conference games than you did last year. So I'm not going to necessarily say it's already a success, but if you can go into the SEC tournament as a top 6, top 5 seed, that's a success. I mean, that's a W in my opinion. Like that's beyond what people thought would happen. So you just continue to sit. You go into the SEC tournament a top 5, 6 seed. That's a win in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, LSU fans are crazy, so they're gonna. I mean, they have a realistic expectation for men's basketball, but sooner or later they're gonna want more than what they're getting. But yeah, no, he took over a crap situation, so it's definitely coming back better.
You
That's for
talk with
sure.
a lot of people, and it's like last year, of course, was year 1 of the McMahon era. Like it was his first year in Baton Rouge. That's it. But in a lot of our opinion, within the media, it's like, okay, this year is his first year.
Yeah.
Last year was an impossible situation. He absorbed hell. Like he took on hell. Developing a roster that didn't have much SEC talent. He was just trying to fill out a roster so that he had enough players to play ball. So now you have the opportunity to get a recruiting class under your belt. You got a guy like Corey Chest who's redshirting this season, but he was the number 1 player in Louisiana, and he went and played a really tough prep schedule at Link Academy. So, it's year 1 in our opinion, in my opinion as well. So you're starting to see him reap the benefits of a transfer portal class, a high school recruiting class, and you have an SEC caliber roster now, and it's starting to show. And
Why is he redshirting?
He just needs some more time to develop. It's no injury, it's no nothing like that. He just needs a little bit more time to develop.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. It's always kind of concerning to see a freshman redshirt, especially in basketball, because these kids today are so damn good.
The one and done era.
Yeah. So, any recruiting news on basketball side, or is it just kind of?
No, I mean they already put their guy. They already put pen to paper with their big time recruits. So for the most part, no. I think that this recruiting class is a done deal. Your roster is pretty filled out right now. You could see them hit the transfer portal and try to get 1 or 2 guys during the offseason. But, for right now, you're locked and loaded. Matt McMahon did a great job with the 2024 class, and now it's kind of full steam ahead to finish out this season, try to stay afloat, go into the SEC tournament with high hopes, and then you get to the offseason and you start to develop this roster even more because I think year 3 is going to be a really big telling sign for Matt McMahon in this program.
All right, well, let's transition to women's basketball. What's the latest with them?
Yeah, they got a big win last night over Alabama. It was a bounce back win. Obviously, they lost the game before, and now you kind of get back in the right direction. This team is fantastic. They were on a 16-game win streak before that loss at Auburn. So, you get back on schedule, you get back on track, and you get a big win over Alabama. Fantastic second half last night. They dominated the third quarter and carried that success into the fourth quarter and, got a 20-point victory in Tuscaloosa. So it's a big win for this program and for Kim Mulkey. So now you kind of continue moving along in SEC play and doing what you can do. You're starting to see continuity form. But, you're without Samaya Smith, who was poised to have a big breakout year. She tore everything in her knee, her ACL, MCL, and meniscus. So, your front court depth is a little thin. You're playing a true freshman, Aaliyah Del Rosario, and then you're playing her alongside Angel Reese. But other than that, you don't really have that much depth to this team. And, Kim Mulkey, when the media talks to her about the lack of depth, she kind of brushes it off and says a couple things or a couple one-liners. But, depth is obviously a concern for this program, however you want to spin it. You go 7 deep, and that's about it. 8 deep on a good night. So you got your starting 5 and then your 2 people off the bench. And it's a unique situation. I'm not saying that they're going to struggle come tournament time because when you have the GOAT, Kim Mulkey, at the helm of your program, it's hard to say that you're ever going to be struggling in any aspect of the game. But, depth will be a concern for the long haul. And now you're starting to see continuity form between that starting 5. Haley Van Lith transitioned to the point guard role. She was used to playing off ball, and you can start to see her get a little bit more comfortable with the ball in her hands. So she's doing really well. Flau'jae Johnson is the breakout player for this program right now, sophomore sensation. Michaela Williams, true freshman, is probably is one of the best true freshmen I've ever seen in women's basketball. She's an absolute bucket, and she's a player who'll be in the National Player of the Year conversation in the next 2 to 3 years. And then you got Angel Reese too. So your team's fire, your team's fine, and I think you're going to see them click on all cylinders at the end of SEC play.
I don't know what their expectations would be. Is it silly to say they're at like an actual contender? I know they are a top 10 team, but like, do you think it's sustainable with only running 7 or 8 deep?
Yeah, it's Kim Mulkey, and you're the reigning national champion. So you go into this year with a championship or bust mentality. You brought in Anissa Morrow, who is the number 2 transfer in the portal. You brought in Haley Van Lith, the number 1 player in the portal, and then you have Angel Reese. You have 3 All-American caliber players, and then you factor in the SEC Freshman of the Year and Flau'jae Johnson from a season ago, and then you factor in the number 2 player in the country, Michaela Williams. Your starting 5 is a fab 5. Like you have 5 incredible players. No matter how you want to cut it, however you want to slice it, this is a championship or bust season for this program. So yeah, you're going into the tournament with championship aspirations once again. There's no other way to slice it.
Yeah. Well, just string along wins. Anything else you want to touch on women's basketball? Any recruiting news or just anything in general?
No, I mean, they're still trying to get the number 1 player in the 2025 class, Aaliyah Chavez, down to campus. She was supposed to come during the fall for a football game, but there's a schedule conflict, so she had to reschedule, and she hasn't necessarily locked down a date yet, but they're going to look to get her on campus sooner rather than later. This is a girl who is the most sought-after player in the country, whether it's a 2024 or 2025 class. So this is somebody that they're circling and trying to get on campus immediately. The only other recruiting news for women's basketball would be the number 1 player in the country, Sarah Strong. It looks to me, from what I've heard from people, is that her finalists are LSU and UConn. UConn made a pretty good impression on that official visit. So LSU is going to try to lock that down. It's an uphill battle for me right now, from what I've heard. But look, if you're a finalist for her and she hasn't necessarily circled a decision date yet, you're still in the running for her. So I think you're going to see LSU put their foot on the gas for Sarah Strong.
All right. All right. Let's transition to away from LSU for a minute. NFL playoffs. Big games this weekend. Let's hear some predictions for remaining games.
Yeah, let me pull up some of these games. You go first while I look up this. I've been talking way too much. So you throw out a couple games for me.
I'll start backwards. Chiefs Bills. I want to pick the Bills so bad. I really do. They're kind of all over the place. They've been kind of the hottest team in football really since Ken Dorsey got fired, their offensive coordinator. The GOAT, LSU GOAT, Joe Brady took over. So Buffalo's favored. It's really tough to pick against Mahomes, but my brother's pretty confident in the Bills as well.
I miss Bobby, bro. God damn. I'm gonna give him a call later today.
Yeah, Bills. I'm probably gonna take the Bills. Even I'm not confident about it though, but I just think they're so due. Josh Allen's due. The Chiefs, people. I just don't think that Chiefs team is what they've usually been. Kelsey's lost a step. Yeah, but I don't know. And then Lions, Bucks. I think the Lions should beat them handily. I think the Bucks looked really good against a beaten down. I think Holy Cross could have beaten the Eagles last week. I mean, the Eagles looked like they did not want to be there whatsoever. So I'm not surprised by that. 49ers, Packers. I think the Packers will hang with them for a little bit, and I think the 49ers will overwhelm them towards the end. 49ers are healthy. They've had basically two and a half weeks to prepare and all that. So I think that'll be key in that. And Texans, Ravens. The spread's freaking 9.5, which is kind of crazy. Stroud always has, late game potential on that. I wouldn't bet it, but I would just take the Ravens. Yeah, you could do a Ravens, 49ers, Lions money line parlay, and it come out to pretty much even money. I really like that. So, yeah, what are your thoughts?
I completely agree with just about every single thing you said. Like, obviously, when I look at the slate, you went from bottom to top. I'll go top to bottom. I think CJ Stroud and the Texans' luck runs out this week. And I'm not going to say it's luck per se because I'm a big CJ Stroud fan.
Oh, he's good.
If you ask me, I think he might be one of the best rookie quarterbacks of all time.
No, he definitely is.
Statistically, and just like improving that organization from top to bottom has been very impressive. So I think in the future he's gonna get his shot. But I think the Ravens take that one. I think Lamar handles business. That spread is monstrous to me, though. 9.5
Yeah,
is way too much.
I would not touch that at all.
I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, but I would probably lock in Ravens money line if you were asking me. And same thing when you're looking at the next game, like Packers and Niners. I think the Niners overwhelm them late. I think Jordan Love's a really good quarterback. I had him for my fantasy team. He was one of my backups, and I ended up throwing him into a starting slot, and I was really impressed. He's a good guy, and obviously fantasy doesn't tell the whole story, but I've watched a good bit of his film, watched a couple Packers games, but I think 49ers, like you said, overwhelm them late and get it done. I'm not even going to talk about the Lions-Bucks game. I think Lions handle business, get it done. I'm a Dan Campbell fan, so I think he gets it done and punches his ticket to the NFC Championship game, which is it's a crazy thought. A Jared Goff-led Lions team, I think they get it done though. And then I'm thinking that's the only game I'm going to disagree with you is the last one. I think the Chiefs pull it off. And I'm only doing that so that we're not the same for all of our picks. So I'm kind of just playing devil's advocate for fun. I do think the Bills are super talented, and I think they can get it done. But I'm just going to play devil's advocate and just pick Chiefs just because. I think it's hard for me to bet against Mahomes.
Well, they were saying, the Chiefs are on less rest, or someone who's on less rest. But they were basically saying the Chiefs, they played in like freezing. They're basically playing on concrete like the last time they played. So, and they're on less rest. So, I don't know. I don't think there's a wrong pick in that game.
I don't think so either. Like that's like the new rivalry. Like I'm not gonna go and jump the gun and say any like, oh, it's the new Manning Brady. Like I'm not gonna say any of that bullshit. But like, Josh Allen and the Bills and Mahomes and the Chiefs is becoming a pretty big rivalry at this point. So it's a toss up. It's a pick 'em in my opinion, whichever one you think can get it done. Whoever gets the ball last, potentially type thing. So yeah, it's a toss up for me.
Yeah. No, I mean Manning Brady is a good comparison because these are the two best quarterbacks in the league and have been for a little while now. So at least in my opinion. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. But like I said, yeah, there's really no wrong pick. Just betting against Mahomes is just annoying.
It's too tough. Like I can't do it like myself personally.
Yeah, I think everyone's excited for that. It probably will be a close game. I cannot see that not being a close game. That's for sure. So, anything else you want to touch on?
That just about does it for me. I'm gonna hop on this little radio call, but dude, we did a lot of content we knocked out in a nice 32-minute stretch. My goodness.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you guys could like and subscribe, check out Zack on LSU Country, and yeah, we appreciate you listening, and have a nice day.